students. I am Mrs. Abbott, and I'm so happy to have you in class this semester. I'd like to introduce myself to you by sharing some background so you have more of an understanding of who I am. First of all, I do want to thank you for being so flexible with your learning. This has really been an interesting time, and I am so impressed with the way your generation has really been great about sticking to your goals and continuing on with your education despite the challenges ahead of you. One of the challenges I've had is my doctors are not allowing me to teach face to face because I have an autoimmune disease. And because of that, I am teaching online. So I'm making the best of it, and I want you to know that you are my priority. It's very important to me that you know that you can reach out to me anytime through email or if you'd like to call or set up a Zoom. I'm always happy to set that up. I am here for you. I'm just not face to face, but I am definitely here for you. So, a little bit about me. Like you, I started my undergraduate degree at Pitt State. I was originally pre med and I took an educational psychology class and I loved it so much. I almost couldn't wait to go to class and I enjoyed reading the textbook. So I knew that that was a big indication that I might need to change my major. And I did. I met my husband at Pitt State. We both graduated from there, and our kids have both attended Pitt State. Our daughter has graduated now, and our son is currently attending PSU. We come from a big gorilla family. In fact, we were recognized at one point because our daughter, when she first started at Pitt State, she was the 38th family member to attend Pitt State. So that's a fun fact about me and about my family. But while I was at Pitt State, not only did I get my degree in elementary education, but I double majored. I was fascinated with psychology, and as you know, mental health is a big part of our world these days. And I can tell you that any psychology that you have is really going to benefit you as a teacher. Well, after graduating from Pitt State, I went on to teach, and as I had a few years under my belt, I went back and got my master's degree. I received my master's degree in ESOL, and interestingly enough, we did not have this program when I was an undergrad. It became more of a need later in time, and I'm so fortunate that I was able to be a part of this program because it really had been helpful to me as a teacher as I had children who entered my class who didn't always speak English, and I had the resources that I needed to best work with those students. Also, I continued my education and received my educational specialist degree from Pitt State as well, and advanced leadership in school administration, which qualifies a person to be a principal or a superintendent. I have continued on at Lindenwood University, where I am almost finished with my doctorate. I'm all but dissertation, that's the ABD, in instructional leadership. So, like you, I have homework too. My background, I taught for 20 years in the elementary setting. I've worked with kindergarten, second grade, middle school, this is the order in which I worked, and mainly fifth grade. I loved the intermediate grades. I loved something different about each grade. What you'll find is that you will see a silver lining in each grade where there are pros and cons with each of the grade levels. And hopefully, you will have that experience of working with the different age groups and seeing for yourself the beauty of each grade. I am a self proclaimed teacher nerd. And what I mean by that is I love my job so much that I actually spend time outside of work working on teaching. I have teacher friends who will get together, and before COVID, we would get together and sit around at Starbucks and brainstorm activities and how we could make our lessons that much more motivating, exciting, hands on. How can we get more bang for our buck? And we just truly enjoy this. So, when you're someone like me who wants to put a little extra in your teaching, these are the kinds of things that you do. I've included some pictures from my previous years of teaching to share with you. So here are some of the activities from from my former classrooms. Hands-on learning is a big deal. And anytime you can take something off the textbook and bring it to life and have your students working together as a team and putting their hands literally on this project, they are so much more likely to remember what they're learning. Of course, we all love those science experiments, but with that comes some management. So we always need to have a plan when we have anything that's bubbling or flaming in our classroom. Again, with the hands-on activities, with that great plan, part of that is having teams, having your students work together in groups. And again, that takes some pre-planning, some organizing, and giving everyone a job so no one's left out. Whoops, there we go. Here is a newscast where my students each week would report the news to the rest of the class, and every student had a turn each week to be part of the newscast. I also enjoyed taking my classroom and transforming it into an airplane where I was the flight attendant. This was an attempt to motivate students during social studies lessons, and our featured film would be the video that perhaps went along with ancient Egypt or wherever we were studying. And the students seemed to like having the classroom transformed into the airplane. Of course, they had to have their passports filled out before they could enter the plane. Another idea that was a lot of fun was taking the classroom and changing it into a restaurant. I actually incorporated both math and writing with this activity. The students were all given menus and they were given a $15 limit. They were to look through the menus, come up with what they would like to order, and we practiced adding with decimals. We practiced putting a tip for the waitress, which happened to be Mrs. Abbott. And after we had our math activity, we did find out averaging and that type of thing, and we found out how much the entire class spent on their meal. And then we dug into the words after that, and we found all of the wonderful adjectives that described the food on the menus that we had in front of us. And what we did was we took our school lunch menu and we rewrote it using the delicious adjectives that were part of the lesson that went along with our restaurant lesson. We also, as we learned about Benjamin Franklin and all of the advances that he made in Philadelphia, we transformed part of our classroom into a mini Ben Franklin's Philadelphia, where not only did each team construct one of the buildings, but they wrote a report and gave a presentation to go along with that. We also had almost like a talk show where we have a food network and we would use food for teaching about fractions and different parts of learning. The students certainly enjoyed the benefits of that. We had class elections in my classroom, and I would call this a student-led classroom where the students each had a role and some kind of ownership in the room. We had a class president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. We had a reading chairman, a science chairman, a technology chairman, a maintenance chairman. Well, the students need to practice their persuasive writing, so why not write a persuasive campaign speech? And with that, we had our class elections, and all year long, we had our class officers who helped run the class. It was a great way to keep the ownership there with the students, to keep them actively involved, and to keep the classroom going seamlessly. When your teacher who will be willing to have the courage to use best practices or wise practices, as some call it, students love this. They enjoy the process of learning. They learn so much. And honestly, one of my favorite compliments is when the teachers of the grades following would say, "Oh, we know who had Mrs. Abbott," because those students knew their stuff. They were so excited about learning, and they really remembered the fundamentals of everything that they had been taught. So, I challenge you, rather than being the most fun teacher, be that teacher who teaches so much that other teachers know who had you. Okay, so as a result, great things happen. We have parents who are happy, students who are happy, and some really nice recognitions. Along with that, I've had many principals and superintendents ask of me to do professional development where I train their teachers on some of the different methods that I've used in my classroom. This is because, again, when you have your students engaged, guess what else happens? Test scores are strong because your students are learning so much. And you will learn in our program how, when our students are engaged and motivated, they will learn so much more. So, this is just where I am outside of the classroom working with area teachers, and this happens to be a presentation over the 6 traits of writing. But most rewarding to me of all is when the students enjoy the classroom and they say that they don't want to go out to recess. They want to stay in and keep learning and keep working on their projects. That is really cool. Something else that's come along with this is building a community. I love having the students encourage one another and to look for the positive attributes of not only themselves but one another and to really promote that. And great things happen in the classroom. You will find that your students feel like a family, they support one another with the right structure. And because of that, I've had some really great activities happen in the classroom where the students have done some really nice things for one another. In fact, a couple of those stories have been published in Chicken Soup for the Soul. The stories that I have worked with Chicken Soup for the Soul are listed here, and I've also been part of the research in the Journal of Learning Disabilities. I was part of a study with Dr. Herford more than 30 years ago. We worked on that research. But back to the Chicken Soup for the Soul. I enjoy going into classrooms and becoming a guest speaker and sharing some of my stories with them. And I keep in touch with my former students, those teachers who are out in the trenches now, those first year teachers. I love staying connected with them. In fact, before we had our pandemic, this was an evening that I invited students to my house for professional development. We did a free workshop for any of the teachers, any of the students who would like to come and be part of this night. And what I had was some of the best teachers around came to my home, and together we put on a really great night of learning for the students and fed them a great meal. So know something about me is that I don't only care about you now while you're my student, but I will care about you even into your career. I'll be here for you with those questions that you have. Here is a wonderful message that was put up by one of our former students. And what's fun is to hear the great things that are happening. Just this year, I had a first year teacher during COVID who was recognized for her outstanding classroom management. Another student who had the highest test scores in her entire school during this time. And I am just so proud of them. And I'm so excited that they will take the time to send me a text or a message and let me know these things. And finally, this is my Lucy. This is Lucy Kate Bingham. And notice her shirt says, "Read to me." And she loves to read. And I'll tell you what, it's such a good idea to have that child who you care about, whether it's your own child, some family member or relative, just that child that you care about. Because as we know, life can get hard, and not every day do we feel like doing something outstanding. So, having a student like Lucy in mind really offers motivation for us on those days that are a little bit harder. So this is my Lucy, Lucy Bingham, and I hope that you are always thinking of your Lucy. And